Thanks for tuning in to our partner webinar brought to you by the National Association of Nutrition Professionals. This webinar is part of our NANP's partnership program, bringing you the latest information, education, products, and services from the holistic nutrition and wellness space. These webinars are recorded from a live event with a Q&A session for the attending audience. We hope you find this information useful and consider including our partners and their offerings in your life.
Welcome to NANP's partner webinar. So today we are featuring LeucoFix with Gerard Scoren. I'm your host, Andrea Granson, Education Program Specialist for the NANP. These webinars are recorded and can be viewed by registrants only. We will send you a link to the webinar and recording later. So before we begin, just a quick reminder that this session is NANP, intellectual property, and may not be recorded or redistributed. You've already heard this video disclaimer and you're welcome to review the written version as well. Okay, so let's get started. Today we present Dr. Gerard Scoren, co-founder of LeucoFix, who has more than 23 years of clinical experience working with children with autism and developmental delays. He is the author of the Amazon bestseller, 100 Natural Remedies for Your Child, and was voted Connecticut's best holistic pediatrician for 7 consecutive years. Dr. Scoren lectures internationally on autism and has appeared on NBC, CBS, and Fox. Welcome, Gerard. We are ecstatic to have you here with us today. It's now over to you.
Well, thank you, Andrea, and thank you to NANP for hosting this webinar for us. We're really excited to share our experience working with kids with autism, and that's been my career. You know, I'm a clinician. I'm not a researcher, but I've been in the trenches with our kids and with our families for over 2 decades, and so I'm now kind of in that phase where I wanted to kind of show and teach people the different things that are out there and things that you can add on. If you see patients with autism, what can you add on right now to help them be better, to help them take that next step? So that's what we're here to do. We're here to share my clinical experience and what I do in my clinic that helps my kids. So we're going to be talking today specifically about the hottest topic in autism right now. Hey, the hottest topic right now in autism is folinic acid, or its prescription form leucovorin, and how that can help improve language in your kids. So I'm here to guide you. If you have kids with autism as some of your patients, what are some other things you can do? So let me start first with, here we go. Again, Andrea kind of read my bio, but I'm a clinician. I work with kids with autism exclusively. I've been doing it for 2 decades. And about 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, I use a lot of different natural therapies, vitamins, supplements, et cetera, with my kids. I find for autism, there's really not much pharmaceutically that helps them. Frankly, there's no pharmaceuticals that help with developmental delays. It's just, kind of psych meds. That's what normally gets used in our kids. But that's just as one of my patients described it. One of my patients' dads is a pharmacist. And I said, oh, did you put your kids on any SSRIs or risperidone or anything? He's like, my kid doesn't need a pharmaceutical straitjacket. Thanks very much. So, we're here because the natural things really start to support our kids better. And so part of what I did was when I was out there searching for different companies and brands, I couldn't find what I wanted, the quality I wanted. So I said, I'm going to make my own. So here launches into our company, LeucoFix, which produces folinic acid as a supplement in the high dose levels that our kids are using. So I'm able to say, okay, I've got a treatment for you. I make this. I know the quality. We're going to use it. We're going to see the results. So that's how LeucoFix came to be. All right. When I talk to my families in my office, I say, look, what do you want? What are your goals? I mean, that's really the main question with your patients is, okay, what can I do for you? What are your goals? What do you want? With our kids with autism, there's primarily 3 responses. Okay, number 1, I want more language. I don't know what my kids get thinking. He's not he. I'm going to say he as we talk about kids with autism because it's about 80% male and 20% female, but I mean all children. But I usually will just say boys or he as a reflex. We don't know what they're thinking. Okay, they can't speak, or maybe they have a few words. Maybe their words are just for what they want, cookie, right, or water, or toy, or whatever, right, or go. Let me get out of here. So, depending on their language level, getting better speech and better communication is hugely important for many families, especially when that lack of communication leads to temper tantrums because the kid wants something and the kid knows, hey, I need to speak. Excuse me, I need to speak to get what I want. And they understand that they can't communicate that. So they get frustrated and they get angry and we have these behaviors. So that's understandable. So language is usually number one. Number two request is often behaviors, and behaviors with our kids on the spectrum is wide and varied. You can have kids that are super happy and calm. You can have kids that are super hyper and using your furniture as a jungle gym, or you can have the really aggressive kids. I mean, I've got patients who are so aggressive. Parents have a lock on their bedroom door to keep them safe at night because they don't feel safe with their kid around the house while they're sleeping. And that's scary. And that's a scary thing to do, that you have to do that. So behaviors are a number two. And then thirdly, and this is something I think all parents think about. I mean, I've got a daughter. We worry about what's going to happen as they grow up. What's going to happen when they grow up and we're not there? How are they going to be on their own? Okay. And frankly, look, parents who have kids with autism don't know, hey, what's going to happen when I'm not here? Are they going to be able to take care of themselves? It's a lot of worries. So those are three major things that most of my families are concerned about, big picture things. But today we're going to be talking about language. All right. So let's talk about different, what word should I use here? How language develops. Okay. What are kind of the marking posts for language in our kids? Okay. Language develops the same regardless of when it starts. So if we're talking about a neurotypical average kid and how their language develops, a kid with autism may be delayed, but we can still get the language developing in the same pattern. Okay. So getting language out is not going to be overnight. It's as though the body pressed pause on the language development. Okay. We're going to press the play button. Okay. And it's going to develop, but it's not going to be instant. It's still going to take time. So go back and think about maybe your own child, okay, or a child how does language develop? Well, the first thing is repeating. It's echolalia, or what they call in the industry echolalia, right? It's an echo. I say mama, you say mama. I say dada, you say dada, okay? That's how young infants start to learn, all right? Then after that, it tends to go into groups of words. And those groups of words is called scripting. It's as though you're reading a script. It's basically a group of words that mean an emotion, okay? So when I see somebody on the street, I say, hey, how you doing? Okay. And that's 4 words that are in a script that everybody uses that conveys a certain emotion of a greeting. Okay. I had a patient a long time ago whose family had a lot of dinner parties. Okay. And as the dinner party ended, the parents would stand at the door and shake everyone's hand and say, thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. So the child learned that leaving was associated with that phrase. All right. So whenever he was uncomfortable in our office, he'd say, thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. Right? Because it's that sound, that group of words that has an association to an emotion. So we start with echolalia, we then step into scripting, and then we then kind of jump into that conversational language. And that conversation is back and forth. It's asking questions. It's language that we want, right? So that's the process that you're going to see in your kids. And I want you to kind of think about that as we're watching improvements. Okay. So you can kind of set that benchmark for your patients and say, okay, we're starting this treatment and I want to see how your child's language is growing. And these are the steps that you're going to look for. So, hey, if we went from no words to some words, that's amazing. If we went from some words to groups of words, that's amazing. We went from groups of words to conversation. That's amazing. Okay. But you're not going to go from no words to full conversation. You've got to go through the process. All right. So I want to start out. I've got 2 videos for you. Okay. And obviously, hey, look, talk is talk is talk and talk is cheap. Seeing the videos of our kids improve is really what brings it home. Okay. So I want to show this video to you. This actually is not a patient of mine. Okay. This is a child who found our supplements online The mother tried them and was so blown away that she sent us a before and after video. So this is going to be a before and after video of this child. His name is Scout. And you're going to see a child who is nonverbal. Okay, no words, but he's vocalizing. So he's making noises, right? And those noises mean something to him. You'll see why. And then the after is 1 week later. This is what she told us, is 1 week after supplements, right? After trying folinic acid, how the expressive language changed. Okay, so just expect that before and after. Now, as a side comment, we're having a little challenge with Teams and sharing the video. So I've just got to switch to a different app. So you're going to see me switch to, a different screen here, and we'll bring up Scout in a second. Here's Scout. All right. So you should be able to see the video only. So we'll play the video and just listen for that before and after.
Okay. Go upstairs.
Okay, why?
Mommy, go upstairs.
On or off?
On. Mommy, on.
Good job.
Baby shark.
The baby shark. That's hey, if your kid's saying baby shark, we're good to go. So I mean, that in and of itself, as simplistic as it is, it's truly amazing. I mean, show that to a speech therapist and say, hey, can you do this in 1 week, right? It's amazing how this treatment can work in certain kids. In certain kids, it's got this hugely miraculous response. Now, it doesn't do that for everybody, but the potential can be huge. All right, so that's video 1. We'll get to video 2 later. Let's talk about what this folinic acid is. Okay, so folinic acid is a vitamin. It is one of the few vitamins that kind of got grandfathered in because it was discovered so long ago, that it also has a pharmaceutical form. Okay, now here in the US, vitamins cannot be prescribed as pharmaceuticals. But folinic acid is kind of got grandfathered in and snuck in as this. So what we have is a treatment, okay, that is a vitamin. Okay, folinic acid is a vitamin, and it has a pharmaceutical form, which is leucovorin, but they're the same thing. And this is what I explain to my patients. I say, look, you can take Advil or you can take ibuprofen. One's a brand name, one's a generic. It's just different names for the same thing. So let's kind of walk through it. All right. Folinic acid, the vitamin, was discovered back in the 1940s. Okay, a long, long time ago in a galaxy far away. Got FDA approval in the 1950s to treat colorectal cancer. Okay, still FDA approved, this vitamin for colorectal cancer. Got added to the World Health Organization's essential medications list in 1979. Now, essential medications list for the World Health Organization is basically a list of medications that are so effective, so affordable, and so safe that they should be available to everyone. Okay, and that's the World Health Organization's essential medications list. Things that are just why wouldn't you use these things? Because the potential is so huge and the side effects are so minimal. Okay, so we got that back on 1979. Then folinic acid got FDA approval in the 1980s to reduce side effects of certain chemo, especially methotrexate. And again, folinic acid is available over the counter. Since it's a vitamin, it's also available as a prescription leucovorin. Now, back in 2005, let's tie this into, away from oncology and into autism. Back in 2005, the first study was published on folinic acid treating cerebral folate deficiency. Okay. And then last year, 2025, Robert Kennedy Jr. gave a press conference and talked about leucovorin, talked about folinic acid, on how it should be a treatment for autism. And that press release really just kind of exploded people's awareness around the globe that this treatment exists, and this treatment is a huge potential for our kids with autism. Now, the FDA did not approve leucovorin for autism, but did approve leucovorin to treat cerebral folate deficiency. Okay, so that's kind of the legal status of what it is here in the US. And the FDA the fact that the FDA did not approve it for autism is, I think more frustrating because a lot of families say, hey, I want this treatment. It's safe. It's been around for 75 years. It could help my kid. And they go to their doc, and a lot of docs are like, well, I don't know what this is, and it's not FDA approved, so I don't feel comfortable prescribing it. Okay. And look, I understand the prescription, excuse me. I understand the physician's point of view. All right. You have something that you're going to prescribe off label. You're not familiar with it. Yeah, people are talking about it, but they don't want to get their hands dirty. And some docs just are more conservative. Hey, that's their choice. All right. But it still puts our families in a place where you've got an amazing, viable treatment and they want access to it. Okay. And that's where we're trying to fill that gap. So currently, there are over 80 scientific research studies that mention folinic acid and autism. So we're going to be talking a little bit about cerebral folate deficiency because I think that's important as it is one cause of autism, but we're basically talking about folinic acid and leucovorin and autism. All right. So let's talk about cerebral folate deficiency. And I want to talk about this because I think there's a lot of myths out there. And I think there's a lot of myths and that people and even physicians get confused about. So let me kind of clear everything up. Cerebral folate deficiency is when we've got plenty of folate in the body, plenty of folate flowing around the bloodstream, but we don't have it in the brain. Okay. So it's a specific deficiency in the brain where the body's got plenty. Okay. And that deficiency occurs for a few different reasons, which we'll talk about. But basically, well, let's go through these. We'll start there. All right. So there's 5 major reasons that you could have a deficiency of folate in your brain. Number 1, you have a nutritional deficiency. You're not taking it. You're not eating it. You don't have a vitamin. Obvious. Okay. Next, there may be a poor conversion of that dietary folate into its active form, methylfolate or 5-MTHF. Okay. Many of us are familiar with 5-MTHF and MTHFR genetic polymorphisms. I do want to highlight, so MTHFR is so popular, right? A lot of our patients go get that testing. And they're like, look, MTHFR, it's normal, it's abnormal. There are other enzymes that convert folate to methylfolate, okay? And those aren't really talked about. Enzymes like DHFR, enzymes like MTHFD1. There's a multiple step process to go from folate to methylfolate. And so if any of those genes aren't working, you're going to have a deficiency of active methylfolate, okay? Which is confusing. And let me take a side note here. The main reason I'm talking about these tests is that they're tests that our patients know about. They're tests that we know about. They're tests that docs know about. But do they understand everybody understands what to do when they're abnormal, but do we understand what to do when they're normal? So we'll get there. And my major concern is that if one of these lab tests is abnormal, okay, the treatment is easy. The treatment's folinic acid. Okay. Hey, I've got MTHFR problems. Well, you're going to give methylfolate or folinic acid. Great. I'm nutritionally deficient in folate. Okay. Well, you're going to take folate or methylfolate or folinic acid. That's what you're going to do. Right. But what if these tests are normal? And that's my concern, because if a patient gets one of these tests, right, and they're like, oh, this is normal, I don't need the treatment. Well, guess what? There are other reasons you may need the treatment. Okay. And these tests are not comprehensive. These tests are not 100% analyzing folate levels in my brain. And so my major concern is that people are doing these tests and putting all this emphasis and treatment decisions based on that testing when the testing is not comprehensive and complete. Okay. So my major point is try the treatment. All right. But let's walk through the tests so everybody's familiar with them. All right. Next, another cause for cerebral folate deficiency is mitochondrial dysfunction. All right. Getting that folate into the brain requires mitochondrial energy. It requires ATP. If your mitochondria aren't working because of toxins or infections, that's going to cause this issue. You may have genetic mutations or genetic polymorphisms that in the gene that create the receptor that brings folate into the brain. Okay. So this gene is called FOLR1, folate receptor 1. That's the gene that controls the production of this, well, like I tell patients, this tunnel, right? The chaperone, this receptor, it's bringing folate into the brain. If you don't have the genes to make the correct one, it's not going to work. Okay. So who cares what your MTHFR is? Who cares how much folate you take? If this thing's broken because it was born broken, it's not going to work. All right. We also have folate receptor antibodies, and this is the most common test nowadays. It's called the FRAT test. I've got that on another slide. But the FRAT test, F-R-A-T, stands for folate receptor antibody test. You're basically looking for autoimmune antibodies attacking that folate receptor going into the brain. All right. So a lot of people are doing this test. It's very popular lately. And people get that test. And if the test says, hey, your immune system is attacking that receptor, well, then that receptor is not working. So what do? You get on folinic acid. Got it. Great. But again, my major concern is, what if this test comes back and it's normal? Okay. People won't try the treatment. And this treatment may be needed for other reasons. Maybe you don't have antibodies attacking the receptor, but maybe your genetics for the receptor are broken, or maybe your mitochondria are not working well, so there's not enough energy for that to work. Or maybe you've got all these MTHFR and other folate methylation genes that aren't working, or you have a nutritional deficiency. These tests are not comprehensive, guys. All right. I think you're getting my point. I don't want to hammer it home too much, but I wanted to introduce to you the different tests that people are looking at and the decisions based on those results. All right. This is a little graph I put together, and it kind of walks through everything I just talked about. So to kind of explain the graph, we're going to go from left to right. All right. On the left is folate in the blood, and on the right, you can see it says blood-brain barrier in the brain. All right. There's two ways to get folate in the brain, guys. So let's start at the top left. Not sure if I have a highlighter pen on Microsoft Teams, but I won't worry about it now. You have dietary folate on the top left. Okay. That goes through, multiple genetic changes or multiple genetic changes until you get to that MTHFR gene. And then that MTHFR gene is that last genetic step to active folate, methylfolate. Now that methylfolate, you see at the bottom of the screen, that wants to go through the blood-brain barrier into the brain through this folate receptor called the folate receptor alpha, okay? That folate receptor alpha may not be working because of mitochondrial dysfunction, because of those autoantibodies that you find on the FRAT test, or what I didn't even write on here, what if you've got a genetic problem with that FOLR1, the gene that's making that folate receptor? So all of a sudden, we've got multiple reasons that dietary folate is not going to convert and cross the blood-brain barrier and get into the brain. Okay. So what do? All right. Yay. Here's our hero, folinic acid. You see at the top middle of your screen, it's in green. Okay. Folinic acid gets into the brain through a different receptor. Okay. That receptor is called the reduced folate carrier, which you see there. So folinic acid gets into the brain a different way. All right. When I'm talking to patients, I kind of touch my head on both sides. I'm like, methylfolate's getting in this door of the brain, and folinic acid's getting in this door of the brain. So if this door's not working, this door might be working, and just kind of show them that we're going to be able to help your child by getting this nutrient into their brain through a different way, a different door. Okay. Now these FRAT antibodies don't attack the reduced folate carrier. We don't need a lot of mitochondrial ATP energy for the reduced folate carrier. We need a lot of ATP for the folate receptor. So all of a sudden, these causes for cerebral folate deficiency don't apply or don't affect us when we're using folinic acid. So it's an amazing treatment for a lot of these different reasons. Okay. And again, basically the take-home point, folinic acid going to get into the brain a different way. So you've got all these issues and people are doing all these tests, right? Hey, I'm going to try this treatment. I'm going to try folinic acid with my kids. I try it with every single patient, period. Okay. Now, we talked about testing and why I believe it's not complete. Well, is there any complete analysis for this? And yes, there is. Okay. Basically, if you want to see how much folate or methylfolate or folinic acid you have in your brain, you have to do a spinal tap. Okay. Now they do this in research, but we're not going to do a spinal tap on our kids. It's way too invasive, right? So if the most accurate test is too invasive to do, then we just try the treatment. Okay. Because all these other tests are good, but they're not complete. So when a patient comes up to you and says, hey, I have a normal MTHFR, we're still going to try folinic acid, guys. All right. Or they've got that FRAT test. They're like, my FRAT's normal. Still going to try it. All right. Now let's talk about these things in a little more detail, but I think you're probably familiar with something like this, MTHFR. We know MTHFR is the last the last gene, the last enzyme that controls the final methylation of the folate pathway to become methylfolate or 5-MTHF. A lot of you may be seeing or ordering MTHFR genetic polymorphism tests. And yeah, look, 50% of the world has a poorly functioning MTHFR, right? 40% have one polymorphism and 10% have two polymorphisms. Frankly, I haven't seen anybody with more than two. I think that ends up being a miscarriage because MTHFR issues are a major cause of miscarriages and fertility issues. My wife's a fertility doc, and she gives methylfolate and folinic acid to these people, and they're like, oh, here comes the babies. So for those people who do have MTHFR that's not functioning 100%, they have a risk for anxiety. They have a risk for depression. They have a risk for heart disease. They have a risk for stroke. Okay. And those obviously are very common, and how amazing that it's so easily treated. Whether I'm treating it with methylfolate, whether I'm treating it with folinic acid, you're going to get changes. All right. Now, for people who do have these MTHFR polymorphisms, the more you have, the slower the conversion of methylfolate. Folinic acid is your answer, or methylfolate. The nutritional deficiency of folate is pretty obvious, but I think it's important to highlight if you have lab work on your patients and they do a folate B12 test, right, which is pretty common, their folate levels will be high. They'll be greater than 24, which is the common threshold for the lab. So, you know, a typical doc that doesn't understand this stuff will be like, you got plenty of folate. You don't need to be taking this stuff. I don't know why you're taking it. You might have too much. Look at that. Might have too much, right? Well, guess what? It's not in the brain. It's not getting into the brain. It's not crossing over. This is where the folate deficiency is cerebral. It's brain only. All right. So when you see those labs, the high folate, what I tell patients is it's high because you're not using it. Okay. Why is it floating around in the blood so high? Because you're not using it, guys. So we got to use it. Okay. Got it. All right. The folate receptor autoantibodies, again, we talked about this a little bit, but I got a slide on it. If you have your immune system attacking the folate receptor, attacking the tunnel where methylfolate gets into the brain, then you have less methylfolate in the brain. But folinic acid goes through that different door, that reduced folate carrier. So that's why it's the treatment. All right. Mitochondrial dysfunction, again, we talked about again, ATP, mitochondrial energy, is needed for that folate receptor to work. So if your mitochondria aren't working very well, which is common in autism, I would say 50% plus of kids, depending on the research you read, have poorly functioning mitochondria. Now, they don't have mitochondrial disease where you're in a hospital. I've got a handful of patients with mitochondrial disease. It's intense. Okay, it is severe. You're in the hospital. Kids aren't in the hospital. So it's not a mitochondrial disease, but it's a dysfunction. You don't have as much mitochondrial energy. The kids are burning all their energy jumping around on your furniture. Not enough energy left for brain development, or not enough energy just to move methylfolate into that brain. Okay. Now, you can test mitochondria with things like organic acids. There's another lab called the MitoSwab, which is owned by the same company that owns FRAT. And you can also do muscle biopsies. That's when you get into kind of severe levels, that docs are doing muscle biopsies. Again, folinic acid is your answer, because folinic acid is going to get through that different doorway. And that doorway doesn't really require much ATP to be used, which is nice. All right. Let's move on to testing. We talked about the testing for a lot. Let's talk about the treatment. That's what matters. All right. So again, as I mentioned, I'm a clinician, but it's important to talk about research. Okay. Because hey, research is great because it takes everything that we see in our clinics and we see in our practices and shares it and writes it down for others to see. Okay. So I got a handful of research studies. This one talks about folinic acid as an adjunctive therapy and treatment of inappropriate speech in children with autism. This was a double-blind placebo-controlled trial. This showed that it alleviated speech and behavioral symptoms in the brains of children with autism. So guess what? You give folinic, you get more language. All right. Here's another study. Folinic acid improves verbal communication in children with autism language impairments. Another double-blind placebo-controlled trial. If you look at the authors in this study, the first author is Richard Fry. Dr. Fry is one of the elite, researchers on folinic acid. So a lot of the protocols, a lot of the treatments is from all of Dr. Fry's work. I got to see Dr. Fry a few weeks ago at an autism conference in Orlando. He's great. He's done so much to bring this treatment to the forefront of awareness for our families. You know, if it wasn't for him, you know, a lot of us wouldn't know about this. So he's done amazing work. But again, high dose folinic acid for 12 weeks resulted in improvement in verbal communication. There were improvements in the Vineland Behavior Scale, the Aberrant Behavior Checklist, Autism Symptoms Questionnaire. There was another one, forgot what it was, but you kind of get the idea. It was the it was the Behavioral Assessment System for Children. That was another one. But again, just great improvements in all of this research. Again, over 80 studies mention folinic acid in autism. Okay, and most of them all have the same darn response. Here's another one. Again, efficacy of folic acid or folinic acid, as they should have written. Supplementation in autistic children, they used low dose. We're going to be talking about dosing. Their dose was 400 micrograms, which is, you know, RDA here in the States. They used that twice a day for 3 months, still improved in our kids with autism, sociability, verbal and pre-verbal cognition, receptive language, effective expression, communication. All these things improved. All of it, okay? So yes, we see it in clinic. We see it in the research. All right. So as I tell my patients, what are you waiting for? Okay, folinic acid can help your children speak, period. You saw that video, right? It works at any age, all right? You've got young kids, you've got teenagers, you've got adults. And look, parents ask me, they're like, hey, everybody says start early, start early, start early. Does that then mean that the older they are, treatments won't work? No, okay? It may work slower, but they're still going to work. I have plenty of older patients. When I say older, I mean people in their 20s, you know, that's probably the old. I know I got a couple in their 30s. But again, I've seen stuff work regardless of age. It supports brain health. It supports heart health. So let me give you a couple case studies. My first is a seizure case study. This one was great. This was a kid. He was probably, I don't know, 10, 11, 12. And he was nonverbal, and he was having 30 seizures a day. Okay, so he had to wear a football helmet because like every 20, 30 minutes, he's on the ground, right? So he's having 30 seizures a day, and he's on the max dose of seizure medication he could be on. I don't know if it was Keppra or what he was on. But he's on the max dose, and he's still having 30 seizures a day. We gave him folinic acid. He went from 30 seizures to 0 in 1 week. 30 seizures to 0. He's been having seizures every day for years. And we could do that in a week. It's crazy. It can be crazy. Okay. Next, had another patient who was in his 40s, I would say early 40s. Very healthy guy. Okay. Ate well, in shape, exercised. He and his wife, you know, do a lot of running and 5Ks and such. So healthy guy. You wouldn't expect him to to have a heart attack and need a triple bypass. Okay. But he did. So we ended up doing his MTHFR status, right? And he's got the max. He's got homozygous 677T of the MTHFR. I said, look, and you know, his homocysteine's crazy and all of these markers. It's like, hey, it's time for figure out if we put him on folinic acid or methylfolate. But all those numbers normalized. This cardiologist was just blown away on how well he could do, because we're giving the nutrients that the bodies need based on their genetics. Okay. The same treatment for everybody doesn't work. We all know this. All right. So how do you dose it? I would highly recommend Goldilocks. Highly recommend starting low and starting slow, because there can be side effects, which we'll talk about. All right. Now, all this research, again, especially Dr. Fry's research, talks about a dose of 2 milligrams per kilogram of folinic acid with a maximum dose of 50 milligrams a day. Okay. Now, I don't speak metric. So that's about 1 milligram per pound of weight. So if you got a 20-pound kid, that's 20 milligrams a day. You got a 50-pound kid, that's 50 milligrams a day. You got a 100-pound kid, that's 50 milligrams a day. We're maxing out at 50 milligrams. All right. So that's the typical dosing instructions in research. Now, what I see is that docs who are willing to prescribe it, right? So I have patients who go and get leucovorin, and the docs are like, well, the research says 2 milligrams per kilogram. So here you go. All right. That's the max dose. So they're just putting their kids on max dose of leucovorin, of folinic acid. And you're going to risk the side effects coming on strong. So again, we'll go over the side effects and what they are and how to mediate them. But I don't want the parents to see side effects, because then they'll stop treatment too soon. Okay. Start low and slow. So I'll recommend start at a low dose, like 5 milligrams, and every few days, work your way up. Watch for the benefits, like that language, that kid in 1 week, right? Watch for the side effects. So I say low and slow. Do what you want. So let's talk about what can happen, all right, including the side effects. Number one, you may see improvements in language and focus and mental cognition. Awesome. That's what we want. Sometimes those changes are fast, like that video. Sometimes those changes are a little slower, but the parents still see it. The speech therapists still see it. The grandparents who see you every, 3 to 4 times a year are like, wow, what are you doing? That he is totally different than before. Okay. So you may get improvements. You may also get no changes. This stuff does not work for everyone. Okay. That's why I tell my patients, we're all going to try it. You may get amazing effects. You may get nothing, but we're all going to try it. And if you don't get benefits, it sucks. I know, but let's move on to something else. But at least we tried it and checked that box. All right. You may also get side effects. Now, you may get side effects with improvements. You may get side effects without improvements. So I do see parents who are like, oh my gosh, the language is great, but he's super hyper. What do I do? Okay. Do I stop the treatment? I don't want to because of the language. And that's where they're at. Or you may have no improvements in language, but you still get all these behaviors. All right. So the side effects are stimulatory behaviors. Folinic acid is a stimulant. Okay. And it's a stimulant that activates the brain for language development. So some kids can get hyper. Some kids, I normally don't see it causing violence, but the hyperactivity, the stimming, and then the insomnia are all really common side effects with this stuff. I tell my patients about 50% of kids are going to have hyperactivity, maybe some sleep problems on the folinic acid. So watch for it. And that's why I like to kind of start low dose and get those receptors used to what we're doing and build it up, right? You can reduce those behavioral side effects with magnesium, with lithium orotate, with NAC. What those are doing is basically the stimulation in the brain from the folinic acid has to do with its production of adrenaline, its modulation of glutamate. And so the adrenaline and the glutamate are, really strong accelerators for the brain. So the magnesium, the lithium orotate, the NAC are going to help the body metabolize those out. So with less adrenaline, with less glutamate, you're going to have a calmer kid. So those are some supplements that you can use to basically reduce, you're reducing those side effects and the parents see it. If they're not getting the side effects, they really don't need that, but at least you've got something to work with. All right. Like I said, consider starting low dose, bump it up. Okay. The max dose, 2 milligrams per kilogram or 1 milligram per pound with a max of 50 milligrams a day. Some people will split it up twice a day, half and half. That's cool as long as the insomnia doesn't affect, but more is not necessarily better. Okay. Think Goldilocks, think the bell curve. Some people are good on a little bit. Some people are good on more. Some people are good on the most. So sometimes the most gives you side effects. So trial and error, everybody's different. All right. Now, the folinic acid that we have, LeucoFix. Okay. Our supplement is not just folinic acid. Okay. We have added a few other ingredients to make those receptors work better, right? Now, remember, folinic acid goes through this other door, reduced folate carrier. Doesn't need much else to get that to work. That methylfolate goes through that folate receptor alpha, all right? The folinic acid can also go through that folate receptor alpha, but not as much. I forget the research, but it's like 20% effective going through that other door versus the reduced folate carrier. So some can get in. There are nutrients that will help that folate receptor work better. Okay. They are vitamin B12, they are vitamin D, and they are mitochondrial energy, ATP. So what did we do? I said, hey, these are my patients and these are my supplements because I make these. I want it all together. Easy. All right. I'm the maker of this stuff. Okay, cool. So here we go. I got folinic acid. I put in a little vitamin D. I put in ATP, which is pretty darn rare to find. I mean, finding a actual ATP as a supplement is not easy. There are a few brands that do it. There's a lot more companies. This is a pet peeve. I'm just getting on my high horse. There are companies that sell mitochondrial supplements that say ATP on the label. They don't contain ATP in the ingredients. Okay, so watch out for that. Make sure you read your ingredients. But we've got ATP in here. We have the we have the B12 as adenylyl cobalamin. Again, I think adenylyl is the best form. I want to avoid the methylated B12 because that's causing a lot of side effects with our kids. So try to avoid those methyl forms, and I'd rather have adenylyl and hydroxy. And obviously, we don't want cyanocobalamin. I know our kids are picky eaters. These are my patients. These are my families for a long time. I know the kids don't like certain flavors. So we have created this, and I know they don't swallow pills. So we've created LeucoFix as a sweet tasting powder. Okay. It's gluten-free, it's dairy-free. And I know most of our kids are on or should be on gluten-free, dairy-free diets. So we manufacture all of our supplements to be gluten-free, dairy-free, period. Okay. And there's the ingredient label there that you can see. All right. Now, as you saw with that first video, improvements are real. You get language improvements, cognition improvements, mental processing, mood, seizure improvements as well. I'll give you one other quick story. This is another seizure testimonial. I actually just got this story last week about a parent who had tried LeucoFix and their child was having drug-resistant seizures. I don't know the details. I don't know how many seizures a day or anything, but they were insanely happy. They're like, my kid's having seizures every day. No medication's working. I start LeucoFix. I start folinic acid, and all of a sudden the seizures are gone, right? And the patient said he had seizures daily, and now it's been 10 days, 2 weeks, seizure-free. Hadn't gone seizure-free for years, guys, years. This stuff is great. All right, I've got another video here. This is our last video. And again, I've got to switch to another screen. So let me switch to that other screen and explain the video before we launch it. This is a patient of mine. His name is Theo, and mom recorded some videos of him in 2025, nonverbal, unresponsive. Now we're on folinic acid, and we got videos from 2026.
Here. Hello. Yeah. Meow. Can you say mommy? You say mommy? Yeah, where's your worm?
Right here. It's up in the pool.
He jumps in the pool.
It's up in the pool. Hey, look. Hey, look.
Air lady. It's so good.
Sandy again.
You want to sing it again?
Yes.
All right, you start.
It's slowly down, slowly down, slowly down. It's slowly down.
My fair lady. Very good.
Yeah, you can do this. I know. And it's look, I mean, we're all practitioners here. It just brings such a smile to your heart whenever you're able to help a patient in any way. And so, video before and after videos like this just make my day. But it's also this is the meat of inspiration. There's so many families out there that don't have hope. They go to a pediatrician, they're like, well, you can go to therapy or just put them in a home. I mean, literally, that's what the doctor's saying. Like, put your kid in a home. I don't know. I mean, how do you walk out of an appointment like that? Right? They're like, hey, you're the doctor. You're the only person that can help my kid. And they're like, I don't know, put him in a home. It's so disheartening. And these families are really struggling. So to give them hope, okay, to give them a potential, like, okay, hey, there is something that could work. It's amazing at how it just changes their lives. And this is what I want you to do. I want you guys to do this with your patients. Okay. All right. So walking through a couple of the details of LeucoFix. LeucoFix is a folinic acid powder. It's gluten-free, dairy-free, it's soy-free, it's sweet tasting. Obviously, the folinic acid is leucovorin. So if your patients are coming in and say, hey, what about leucovorin? You're like, well, I can't prescribe the medication, but I have the generic. It's over the counter. Okay. We have this powder in easy titrating doses, and I like it as a powder so you can change the doses you need to. It's not a capsule, and you're kind of locked into that. So there's a little scooper in there. Every eighth teaspoon is 5 milligrams. So if you're doing the max dose of 50 milligrams, that's 1¼ teaspoon. We created this because of one reason. I want every kid with autism to try folinic acid. The benefits are too huge. The side effects are too small. Okay. But if people are going for that prescriptive form and can't get it from their doc because they can't get a prescription, or maybe their insurance doesn't cover it, Or maybe they don't want to wait for an appointment. They just want to do it now and they're in your office. Okay. This is why we made LeucoFix. Made LeucoFix so we can get folinic acid to our kids as fast and affordably as possible. Right. Obviously, because this is something that I make for my patients and for you guys, safety is a huge concern for us. It's made in a CGMP certified facility. We test everything to make sure it meets label claim, that there's free of heavy metals, it's free of microbes and coliforms. Here's a picture of our COA for our current lot. We're always happy to share all of our safety data with you. And again, don't forget to tell your patients, this is FDA approved stuff, all right? It's rare to find a vitamin that has FDA approval. There are a handful, okay? NAC has FDA approval for treating Tylenol toxicity, okay? Vitamin C for scurvy, vitamin D for osteoporosis. It's a handful of vitamins that FDA will give approval for. This has been approved for 75 years, and that is a real testimonial to its safety, okay? I don't touch any medication that hasn't been on the market for 10 years, all right? Let's road test this stuff a little bit. I'm not going to touch it before it's road tested, all right? Remember Vioxx back in the 90s? I don't know what their safety trials were, but the FDA approved it, and then 30,000 people died of heart attacks. Ooh, I guess we should pull that off the market. Maybe you should do that safety studies before you get approval for it. So yes, it's incredibly safe, and we know because it's been around since the 50s, all right? And FDA approved for colorectal cancer, and for, the side effects of methotrexate, and FDA approved for certain forms of megaloblastic anemia, and now FDA approved for cerebral folate deficiency. Now, the word autism isn't in any of those, but those 80 research studies, it sure is. All right. All right. So how can you get this stuff? Well, we want to make it easy and available for you. So we've got 3 options. If you are interested in getting high dose folinic acid, and let me also take a step back and say, folinic acid is available over the counter. I mean, you can go to Amazon and get it, but it's all low dose. Okay. The doses are going to be 400 micrograms, 800 micrograms, maybe 1 milligram. Okay. If you're working with your patients to get this 50 milligram a day dose, they're going to use a bottle a day or 2 bottles a day of whatever company is making it in low dose. So LeucoFix is high dose. We made it the dose in order to follow the scientific research. Okay. So if you want to do 50 milligrams a day, you can, and you're not going to burn through a bottle in the day. I think it lasts like 2 weeks or something. All right. So here's how you can get it. Patients can go directly to the website if they want to, and get it. It retails at $80. We were very happy that we could work with our producers to get this more affordable than cash price of leucovorin. Okay, so again, leucovorin, the prescription, if your insurance doesn't cover it, okay, our dose that we've got in our bottle costs about $120 cash if insurance doesn't pay. We're able to make LeucoFix at $80 a bottle. All right, so we're able to make it more affordable than if you're getting the prescription for cash. So families can get it on our website, retail, free shipping. You guys, if you're a licensed practitioner, okay, you can get it wholesale. So our wholesale is $40 a bottle. So you can email us at leukofix@gmail.com. We'll get license confirmation, talk to you about a handful of things, and then you can get this stuff wholesale and sell it in your clinic, okay? We also have an affiliate program, all right? And so this is affiliate drop ship. If you don't carry stuff in your office and you're like, I don't want to deal with that, that's fine. We understand. We've got the options. We can set you up an affiliate account, and every bottle that you sell through your affiliate, you get your own little website, right, that you send patients to. Patients go to that website and they buy. We'll send you your own coupon. So you get a 10% coupon to give your patients, right? That's specific for you, nobody else. And your specific website URL. Patients get 10% off. You're going to get a $20 per bottle commission sent directly to you. Okay. So if you're interested in the affiliate program versus the wholesale, go to our website, leuco-fix.com. And then there's a pull down tab and it says click, affiliate program, click the affiliate program and sell it. And so, we do not sell on Amazon. All right. We do not want to be involved with that. We do not want to be involved with third-party sellers. We want it directly to the health practitioners. We want it directly to you. We want you to give it to your patients. Okay. We don't want people just grabbing it online. Yeah, they can get it from our website, but we want it to come from you. So, that's folinic acid, guys. And I know we're going to have some Q&A. So we'll if you have questions, you can start typing them into the Q&A. But again, to summarize, and I'm coming from the perspective of a clinician. All right. having been in practice for over 2 decades and working strictly with kids with autism, that's my practice. Folinic acid is one of my top 5 treatments that we use with every single patient. Okay. Why? The potential is huge and the downsides are few. It's that simple, guys. Okay. Now, can you have amazing results like those videos? Yeah, you can. That's why we've got those videos. So you can see that, and patients can, and families can see that and say, oh my gosh, there's something I could try. All right. Doesn't work with everybody. Nothing does. Okay. So, and we all know this. We all know the practicality of it all. All right. Nothing works with everybody. Fine, but it's worth the try because again, those downside side effects, hyperactivity, sleep issues, once you stop the Folinic, it clears out the next day. So any of those, there's no serious medical side effects. All you're having these behavioral side effects, which, okay, hey, you tried it. And maybe we can start using those other things that I talked about to modulate that. But you want to try this with every single patient because trust me, you'll have a good 50% at least of your patients that are changing that they wouldn't have changed any other way. They wouldn't have improved their language any other way. Look, I got patients who years of speech therapy and the parents are like, speech therapy didn't do a thing. ABA didn't do a thing. What am I going to do? And all of a sudden they got a vitamin. They're like, wow, I should have tried that years ago. All right. So that's Folinic acid. And again, like I said, as a practitioner, it's an amazing tool that you've got in your toolbox if you see kids with autism. And you can really help them and change their lives. And look, these families will remember you forever. I go to conferences and I lecture, and people I haven't seen in like 10 years will come up to me and be like, oh my God, thank you. And tell me about their child. It even happened in my college reunion. It was at my 30th college reunion last month. And we're just sitting in the room. We're in the dorms. And somebody walked by and was like, oh my God, Dr. Skowron, and just was like, oh my God, my kid, and he's doing this and he's doing this, and it's amazing. And he's going to college now. And it took me a bit because I hadn't seen her in 10 years. And I'm like, I got to remember who you are. And I finally remembered. But these people remember you forever because you change their lives. And it's awesome. It's truly awesome. So, all right, I'm going to stop babbling because I get diarrhea of the mouth often, and we'll move into the live questions. All right. And Andrea, I'll pop you on here if you want to.
Okay.
I'm going to see if I can find those questions myself. I forgot where they were. But yeah, if you want to.
Well, so I did pop a message in to say, please submit questions, and I don't see any as yet. But I wanted to ask you, is the dosaging the same? Do we cap it at 50 for an adult?
That's what the research says.
Okay.
Now, I share patients with Dr. Fry, and there have been a few older patients where he has gone up to 100 milligrams a day. So he does that, but that isn't spoken about in the research.
Right.
Again, if you go slow, you're going to be able to monitor side effects and such. So there's no real serious downside to it.
Mm-hmm. And then is the product available outside of the US?
Currently, LeucoFix does not ship internationally.
Okay.
But what a lot of our international patients will do is they'll have somebody, or they have a friend here in the States, and we send it to them and they mail it to them.
No problem. Yeah, I mean, because we do have Canadian practitioners, and of course, I'm in the UK, and different people coming and going, as we are all very transient people nowadays.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Okay, no, that was absolutely fantastic. I don't see any questions. I don't know if you have anything else you feel we need to know, you want to share about your organization. I know we have your contact details, and we will, of course, be sending the link to the recording. So we had over 80 people register here. So, of course, many people will still register, will watch, once we share the link.
No, that sounds great. And we've got a few questions coming in. So
Okay.
I'll get to these first. And anybody who has questions, please type them in. Janice, is LeucoFix, I should have brought my cheaters. I usually keep readers in every room. I'm like, where's my readers? Is LeucoFix appropriate only for autism, or would other groups benefit from taking it? As I tell my patients, because parents ask this too, I say, look, vitamins are vitamins, nutrients are nutrients, amino acids are amino acids. We all need them. Okay. And, we're talking about autism here because this is my practice, but as we talked about before, the pharmaceutical form leucovorin, it's approved to treat colorectal cancer. So do people need vitamins? Yeah. Do they need folinic acid? Yes. Can it help their health in many ways? Sure. That's why I gave the case study of the guy who had a triple bypass, right? He was actually one of my patient's dads. He has identical twin boys with autism who we got to recover, okay? Fully recovered, okay? Took a long time, but fully recovered. They were, I'll just tell this story because why not? I started seeing these kids when they were like 5 or 6 and nonverbal, pretty stereotypical, like level 2 autism, nonverbal behaviors. We worked, just step by step by step by step by step by step. Nothing's overnight. Nothing's overnight, right? Step by step. And all of a sudden, now they're 16. Now they just finished their junior year of high school. They got their driver's license. They're mainstreamed in school. They got their girlfriends. They're running track. They're going to prom. Are they a little different? Sure. Okay. But that diagnosis can be taken away and they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine on their own. And now the parents don't have to worry about that. Okay. So is it going to help? Did it help the guy who had the triple bypass? It's going to help anxiety and depression. It's going to help cardiovascular disease and stroke. It's going to help our mental mindset. Yes, anybody can take vitamins. Yes, we're marketing this for autism because that's my practice, but anybody can use it. Janice, can LeucoFix benefit adults? Again, everybody needs their nutrients. Everybody needs their nutrition. Okay. Yes, different ages, different sizes, different weights need different doses at different times. A lot of our younger kids actually need a lot more nutrients than adults because they're growing and they're building. Hey, I got to build these bones to go from 2 feet to 6 feet. That's a lot of calcium I got to need. All right. So yes, it can benefit anyone. I take it myself, right? I have normal MTHFR. So I don't feel a huge change on it, but I give it to some people, some adults. They're like, whoa, well, just give me 5 milligrams. I'm good. Like I am on it. I am locked in. Virginia, super interesting. Thanks so much. I'll be passing this information on. Awesome. Deb, thank you so much for presenting. Really impressive results. Yvonne, and this is a slide for you, or is a question for you, Andrea. Will the slides be available?
Well, that's entirely up to you. If you're happy for us, you can certainly email them and we'll distribute those to everybody who registered.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have everybody's email, so absolutely we can do that.
Excellent. Okay. Any other questions from anyone? All right. I don't see any more questions. But again, I think, the main points I kind of hit in the summary, but I want to hit again is that if you've got kids with autism, or if you've got kids with any kind that you're treating them neurologically, it's ADD, it's anxiety, it's depression, try folinic acid. Try folinic acid and try this high dose treatment. We're not just using 400 micrograms or 1 milligram. We're working our way up to 50 milligrams. All right. Now you may not need that high dose. You may need something less, but again, it's something to try. It's something to have an additional tool into your toolbox to use. Okay. Got a new comment here. Marie, how young is too young to start? Again, are we giving vitamins to our infants? Yeah. It's in their formula. It's in their, it's in the breast milk. Yes. Everybody at every age needs vitamins. Okay. How much is the question? Okay. So how young is too young? I don't think there's no age where your body isn't using folate. Okay. There's no age. I mean, even in utero where you're not using folate, you better have enough folate to close that spinal column. Okay. Because without folate, now your spinal column isn't connected. Okay. So there is no too young. There is no too old with nutrients and nutrition for any of us. Okay. Janice, excellent presentation. Thank you. You're welcome, Janice. I enjoy, as my wife says, you really do enjoy talking, don't you? I say, well, at least I'm not lonely. So again, back to the kind of the hammer home points. Any kid, any adult where you're treating neurological, it's something to try. And if you're using methylfolate, you may get different results with folinic acid because it gets into the brain through a different door. All right. I also find if your patients are getting side effects on methylfolate, the hyperactivity, the insomnia, maybe the anger, try folinic acid because it's going to have less of those side effects than methylfolate. Okay. A lot of our kids who do B12 or do B12 shots get these side effects. Okay. Use all that other stuff I mentioned, the magnesium, the lithium orotate, the NAC. It's going to drop your adrenaline. It's going to drop your glutamate. Yvonne, would you dose the same for pregnancy, starting 5 and increase until you reach the sweet spot? That's a good question, Yvonne. I don't know, because I don't think there's been any kind of safety research during pregnancy. I would say taking a multi with Folinic is safe. But again, I'm not sure where you would top out on dose. So to be conservative, because we don't have the research, I would say 1 milligram during pregnancy. Because that's, I mean, you're getting 800 mics in a prenatal. So why not use 1 milligram of Folinic? All right. Yeah, no, good question. Good question about, I don't have any research on pregnancy, but there's got to be, they must have done research on leucovorin for all the cancer treatments with pregnancy. That's something we can look into. So again, I don't have the Folinic autism pregnancy research, but I bet we could find the pregnancy leucovorin oncology research and safety. So that research is probably out there, but I don't have it at my fingertips. So good question, Yvonne. All right. Yeah. Okay. So again, hammer home points. Try it. Watch for the side effects. Watch for the benefits. Tell your parents and patients to take before and after videos because it's going to be crazy. And again, reach out to us anytime. If you want to set up a wholesale account, email us at leukofix@gmail.com. If you want to become an affiliate, go to our website, leuco-fix.com. Click affiliate program, or you can send your patients there retail. Our major goal, we have one major goal, is to try to help every single kid with autism in the world, period. Okay. Most kids, you're going to see some benefits. Some kids know that happens, but man, every kid should try it. All right. And if there are no other questions, I'll kind of pass it over to you, Andrea.
Yeah, that was fantastic. I know I learned quite a bit there. I've no doubt our fellow practitioners and NAMP members will. It would be awesome if we could see you again at an NAMP conference. We can certainly talk about that offline. But for everybody who joined us here today, thank you so much. For everybody who answered questions and participated, of course, Jared, thank you for sharing your knowledge and your passion. We certainly hear it, we feel it, we appreciate it. So I'm going to wrap this up today. As I said, the recording will go out shortly. But in the meantime, I want to say thank you to everybody for joining us and bye for now.
The information presented in this webinar is for educational purposes only. Please note that holistic nutrition professionals do not diagnose, prevent, treat, cure, prescribe, manage, or heal diseases or medical conditions. They are also not licensed in any state and work with clients, not patients. There are no continuing education credits associated with this webinar.